Bruh, this looks uneven as heck. There we go. There we go. I gotta look good for you guys because it's Friday. TGIF. Nika here with your daily neuro a little bit later than usual, yes, and we are going to be chatting about a very creepy couple in my own personal opinion. These are my opinions, these are my theories. If you disagree, I don't know what to tell you, boo. TGIF, let's talk about these two people that every time I go and rewatch the footage, I'm rewatching the footage of Hunter and Emily, and I'm getting creepy vibes that maybe I missed. One of you guys gifted me this, and you told me to put it on here for you. OMG. There you go. Thank you for the lipstick. I feel very spoiled. Thank you for this beautiful mug. It's literally my favorite mug in the world now. Isn't it? Look at it. You guys know I'm a caffeine whore, and this fits like 3 cups of coffee here. So yeah, I'm all ready to go. And Blake, hey babe, still have these flowers. I don't know what you did. If you sent magic or something in the air, but these flowers that Blake got me, well, I got myself with the money he gave me, have lasted for like a month already. Look at this. Beautiful fall colored bright orange flowers. Anyway, we're not here to talk about all the gifts that you guys sent me. Thank you. We're here to talk about Emily and Hunter. And I am reanalyzing the one night in Idaho interviews that Emily and Hunter gave. And this is extremely concerning because, again, we are crime sleuths, but a lot of us still have day jobs and families to feed. Therefore, sometimes we miss a lot of the in between, right? Now, in this documentary, this is what we hear Hunter say. This is going to sound really weird, but that night, me and Emily woke up in the middle of the night. That's literally how he said it. Okay. Why does this matter? Why does it matter that we analyze his body language? Oh, oh, because when you are doing this, shaking your head no, that is, in my opinion, your subconscious doing what you don't want to do. That is your nature that you can't really control unless you're probably a psychopath and you're very good, or a super narc, very good at hiding your body language. Most people cannot hide that subconscious, unconscious body language. And here he's smirking and shaking his head no. He's smirking and shaking his head no, saying, "You're not going to believe it, but that night, we woke up in the middle of the night. You're not going to believe it." How does that sit well with anybody? This matters. In my opinion, again, like I just said, this is his body language overriding his mouth, because you can say a lot of things. You can spew a lot of BS, a lot of nonsense coming out of your mouth hole. But your body language will always be the most honest. Your body language will always override your mouth hole. Which is more accurate? Which is more honest? Which is more authentic? Which is more truthful? Your body language. Him doing this, y'all get mad at me for wearing lipstick and being happy. when I'm literally talking about the Idaho 4 because I'm supposed to be this boring, monotone crime sleuth and look at the camera like so. But you guys, the guilters, don't get upset while you're watching this documentary with Emily and Hunter giving interviews left and right, smirking the entire time, and their body language is doing this, contradicting what is coming out of their fucking mouth hole. Sorry, I'm very caffeinated, as you can tell. I'm getting so veiny. Then we hear Emily say, as soon as I woke up, I saw Hunter locking the door. I don't think I've ever locked that door. That's what she said. I don't think I've ever locked that door. Johnson said, it felt like there was something pulling me. It was pulling me towards doing that. You're suddenly a believer of dark forces pulling you towards doing that. Okay, bro. Then we compare the One Night in Idaho documentary. I wonder if they got paid for that, by the way. I'm just curious. And we compare that to the interview that Emily gave to the cops, and she said, we all went to bed at like super early, 8:30. I'm sorry. I'm not believing that. 8:30? You went to bed at 8:30. You're like this party girl. Like you're always out and about, drinking, doing God knows what else. Not judging, I'm just saying. But that night you happen to magically go to bed at 8:30. Okay. And the cop says, so you guys slept? If you did, what time did you wake up? She said, 1:30 a.m. We woke up at 1:30 a.m. We stayed up in our own apartment just doing nothing. We're watching TV probably till like 3. Okay. This is where it's interesting. Okay. Pay close attention if you need to take notes. If you're actually into this Idaho 4 crime and you want to take notes, feel free to take notes. You went to bed at 8:30, you got up at 1:30 and stayed up. And then I just woke up and we all hung out for another hour. And then we all went back to bed. I find it very effing interesting that she forgot to mention to the cops, like she mentioned in the One Night in Idaho documentary, that she had this weird feeling, right? Because in the documentary, that's all they're fucking talking about. That's all they're fucking talking about. We had like a bad feeling and like the door, and like this energy, like something was pulling us to close the door, to lock the door. Isn't it odd? Isn't it odd that when you compare the interview versus the documentary, they are quite different? And I personally always believe more of the interviews because it was way more recent, and when you're under pressure potentially because there's somebody in uniform asking you questions, I think statistically people are more likely to be more truthful, right? So I just thought it was odd that she magically forgot to mention this weird feeling that they had when she was with the cops. Why did she not mention that? And the cops say, so there was nothing out of the ordinary from the time that you guys went to sleep to the time that you were awake? She says, no, no. The cop says, nothing at all? No phone calls? No text messages? No calls, nothing like that? She says, no, no, not really, no. The cop says, oh, okay. Then we hear Baryosha in the documentary mention, I hustled up and got home as quick as I could. It was like my intuition. My intuition was telling me something was wrong before I even knew. Suddenly, when it comes to the documentary, everyone and their mother wants to talk about my intuition, bad feelings. I was being pulled by something greater than myself to close the door. My intuition, something was wrong. My intuition. How come you guys forgot to mention any of that to the cops in the interviews? You said everything was perfectly normal. Interesting. One Night in Idaho documentary compared to the interview makes it seem, in my personal opinion, that they all knew. The fact that he is out here hella smiling and shit. You're out here hella smiling. You're out here smiling, bro, and you're doing this. You're doing this. He's literally doing this when he's talking about something pulling him to lock the door. You guys question when I smile. Oh, that's so wrong of you to be happy, Nika. You fucking happy bitch. But here he's talking about his effing dead friends and all the events that preceded that horrific crime. Contradicts himself. Body language contradicts what is coming out of his mouth hole. Nobody questions that. Nobody bats an eye. We're not supposed to question the roommates, the survivors, the friends of the roommates, the family members, the weird sisters that have all these weird involvements and records with the cops. We're not supposed to question any of that. Isn't that weird? And if we do, we get shamed. We're naughty YouTubers. We get shamed, right? And we cannot forget that there was red fluid smeared on their dorm complex. Did you guys forget that? They found red fluid smeared on their dorm complex, as well as Jack Showalter's, right? There was red fluid everywhere. I swear, the more and more I watch this footage, it's just like, are all of these people actors? And if so, they're very bad actors. They're very bad actors. Okay? In my opinion, anyone who believes this crap is just as messed up as these people, right? It's looking more and more like everybody knew that this was all planned. Why are they smirking? Why are they not mentioning these weird things, these weird thoughts? Why aren't they mentioning them waking up in the middle of the night and locking the door to the cops in their original interview? Okay. Body language, people, right? Body language, people. The head going in a no motion while saying, this is gonna sound really weird, but me and Emily woke up in the middle of the night. Yeah, Hunter, weird ass fudge, in my opinion, because it looks like, in my opinion, he's lying. How is it that they all somehow managed to change their stories? What's also interesting is that when they did Jack's initial statement, it was changed at the police station with the presence of his mother, right? Because allegedly, Jack Showalter's mother is a very high ranking official within the university system. Interesting. And allegedly, his father is also an attorney general. Very interesting, right? Because his initial statement read, I drove past the house at 10:30 a.m. and thought it was weird because police were not there yet. That's what his initial statement said. How would he think it's weird at 10:30 when the initial call was not placed until noon? Why doesn't anybody question that? That Jack has shifted his initial statement. That is a massive shift. Again, it's sounding more and more like the 4chan theory, the original theory of people knowing about the Idaho 4 in the early morning hours is more and more true. And if so, it just makes you and I wonder even more, why is it that everybody knew by 10, before 10, yet the cops were not called until noon? It's very concerning. It, and when I see Emily, it just comes off as very, very scripted, right? Everybody's beyond weird here, especially Hunter. Um, and when we see the body cam footage of Hunter where he has his hands on his head, it's almost like I knew it. Is it that Hunter maybe knew something? Is that why he was randomly locking the door when it's supposedly something you usually never do? The point is that we have two different stories and that we should be going, that's weird. Two different stories. And here we have all of these people, Emily and Hunter and David Berryosha, talking about their intuition, and they had this strange feeling. And look, I'm a scientist that believes in intuition, right? There are studies to prove that. In fact, some military branches do intuitive training. But isn't it interesting that they all knew their intuition told them to lock their doors and their intuition told them that something bad was going to happen, even though nothing really happens in Moscow? And I've always been curious, did Hunter just get up? Did he just get up and lock the door? Or was he just getting home? Was he just getting home? Just curious, just throwing it out there, just asking questions. Isn't it odd that out of every night of Hunter coming in, this night he came in and locked the door, something he never did? I find that very interesting. By the way, Hunter, what time was that at? What time was that at? Can we see the footage, please? I would love to see the footage. I would like to see that footage because that would help us corroborate the story, right? I'm just curious. What did he know? What did Hunter know? I find it odd that Ethan Chapin wanted his sister, his brother, or Hunter to come to the house. And they all refused to go there. I find it odd that Ethan Chapin texted his sister, I love you. And according to his sister, this was something he never did. Ethan sounded like he was begging his friends to come over. And they all declined for whatever reason. And when we analyze the body language of Ethan Chapin's sister, she looks extremely uncomfortable when being asked about this scenario. When being asked about what actually happened. How did he text you? Well, he told me he loved me, but I didn't want to go. He texted you early on. It wasn't that late. Why did you decline? Why did they all refuse to go there and Ethan Chapin ended up unalived? I wonder if Ethan Chapin was in some sort of argument and would not back down and was possibly threatened. It's just very odd that they all claim they had some weird feelings, so it ends up coming across like they're all covering for one another. And then we have Berryosha, and we have all read, I have discussed all of the rumors regarding David Berryosha in the early days in the 4chan theories. If you are new to the channel, please go watch those old videos that I made, I don't know, 3 years ago already. He's an interesting person. David Berryosha seems to be like this with Scott Green from the university. We have seen several pictures of them together. Barry seems to have very close connections. And I wanted to go very quickly. How long? Oh, I've been here 21 minutes. Okay, very quickly. Emily's interview, right? Cop says, so why don't we just start with yesterday? Did you go to the football game or anything? She says, I was at the game working. Okay, why don't you start with kind of about the time you left the football game, like everything you got, just wrap it up, just best as you can recall. Just kind of walk us through the rest of your evening, okay? After the football, well, I got to leave early. I left probably 5 minutes after halftime, and I walked home from the dome. I went and said hello to all my other friends in a different apartment, right next to where I live. Where do you live? She says that they block it out. They say it's gotcha. I stayed there for maybe an hour or two. Says okay, and I went home, and it was about 8:30. And when did you get to your apartment? 8:30. 8:30. After visiting my friends. So you went inside your friends. You got to your apartment about 8:30, and none of them were there. She says she repeats herself there, like she's really trying to make a point that none of them were there. It was about 8:30. And then we were all here. There's two. We all slept. We all slept at 8:30. We all went to bed at 8:30. We all slept. She's like sticking to this timeline for whatever reason. We got invited to go to a lodge party, but we didn't go. I find that odd. These are young people who use, probably drink, maybe even use substances. Maybe they're college kids, and you don't want to go to a party. You want to go to bed at 8:30. She says there was a lodge party. We didn't make it there. I know that this morning I saw Snapchats of Xana and them there. So I know that they were there. Then the cop says, what is a lodge party? Can you tell me what is a lodge party? She says a lodge party is just like they host and they have their house is all apartment size, and then there's a big center, and that's just their lodge. So that just a lot of people come over to the lodge. That's it. It's just a party. Says no special occasion? No. So you guys slept, says the cop. What time did you wake up? She says, we slept at we woke up at 1:30. We woke up at 1:30. We stayed up in our own apartment doing nothing. Doing nothing? Weird. And then I woke up and we all hung out for another hour, and then we all went back to bed. I find it very interesting that according to her timeline, they were up the whole time the crime was taking place. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? And then they ask her anything weird. She says no. This is where it gets crazy. Hold on. She says, like, I can't recall the time. I can look. Can I look? She goes through the phone. This is where Dylan called her, right? Dylan called her at 11:51 and said she's my little. So she called, said that last night around 4 a.m. she heard and saw a man, and she and her were locked in their room sleeping, and they woke up and she wanted me to come over and check to the house because she was too scared. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? Dylan is like, I don't know, probably close to 6 foot tall, probably 200 pounds. I mean, she's a big girl. Maybe not. I don't know if she's 200 pounds. She looks thick. Like she's got some mass on her. She's sturdy. She looks like a farmer to me. 6 foot tall, 200-pound girl, and you're calling somebody that's literally half your size and half your weight to check the house for you. Isn't that a little bit strange? So the cop says, wait, so they were locked in their room? She says, yes. And then Emily said, yes, I'll be right over. So they saw and heard a man, says the cop. Emily says they saw a man last night around 4 a.m. She saw Kaylee scream. She saw Kaylee scream. She saw Kaylee scream. Did y'all catch that? She saw Kaylee scream and run up the stairs. And Emily did not say she heard Kaylee scream. She saw Kaylee scream. This is a big boom, guys, because if she saw Kaylee scream, you saw Kaylee scream. You saw Kaylee scream, Dylan, and instead of calling 911 or Quinn or anyone fucking else, you call somebody half of your size and fucking wait to come check the house? Make it make sense. Make it make sense. And I'm with you, Gladiator 1983. Of course, you're not going to turn down a party when you're 20, 21 years old, right? In college or in the military. You're not. At 8:30, bro, you went to sleep. Magically, everybody went to fucking bed. All around Moscow went to bed at 8:30 p.m. Oh, it's almost as if they knew what was taking place. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? The point is that Emily just told the cop in her interview that Dylan told her she saw Dylan scream. She saw Dylan scream. Do you guys get it? Are you getting it? I think you're getting it. I think you understand how important this is. Dylan saw Kaylee scream. What is most interesting is that the cop changes the words. The cop changes the words. That is not what Emily said. Emily said Dylan told her she saw with her eyes Kaylee scream. The cop changes it and says, oh, so she heard Kaylee scream. That's not what she said. She said she saw her. Ran into the room and locked themselves in it. Oh, and then, she was screaming the names. And she didn't hear anything. So Kaylee was screaming the names? So what names was she screaming? Because if Dylan heard Kaylee scream, if she heard the names, what names was Kaylee screaming? Did anybody ever ask Dylan that? Or did y'all just fucking forget? By y'all, I mean the cops. Well, later she came back out to check, and I guess the man was standing right there staring at her. Okay, so let me just back up just a hair here, the cop says. So she said that she saw Kaylee run upstairs, and then Kaylee was screaming. She was screaming. She said, "There's a man here." She said, "There's someone in the house." She said she opened the door later to check. She said she saw the man there, and she didn't know what to do, and the man didn't do anything to her. And so she went back into her room, and she heard the side back door closed. So she thought that they were gone, so they went to sleep. This sounds like a fucking cover up, right, Jenny? And then called me in the morning and come check it out. Again, Dylan is what? Almost 6 feet tall, probably close to 200 pounds. She's a thick, girthy, sturdy, farmer looking type of gal. She could probably carry a pickup truck on her back. You're calling Emily, who's, I don't know, 5 foot, 100 pounds, to come check the house for you after you just told Emily that you saw Kaylee scream. You saw Kaylee scream. And you heard Kaylee scream the names of the people. What the fuck? This is disgusting. It's really disgusting. You hear your roommate screaming after saying a man is in the house and you go to sleep. And you don't actually go to sleep, right? That's just what you originally said because again, she was texting, she was on fucking Indeed, LinkedIn, whatever the page was. She was on TikTok, she was on Yik Yak, she was taking pictures, editing pictures, sending pictures, people, making calls, calling everybody and their mother except 911, except Quinn. Interesting. And as we go through Emily's interview, we also hear that there was a knife on the floor at the top of the stairs. She said, and they just went back to bed. She said, uh-huh. The cop says, and they just went back to bed. The cop says, did she say what she didn't think to call? Anybody would ask what it was going on. Emily says, I didn't ask her that, but I was talking to her and I was like, well, you know all about this stuff. And she said that she almost didn't like want to believe it because she said I was a little drunk. B, I didn't think anything of it because your brain just doesn't make sense of that because why would it? And then I was like, well, do you know why like he had some mask on where you could only see like it was over here and over here. So she could only see his eyes and nose. She didn't think to call because she was a little drunk. Again, no excuse because we've seen 3-year-olds, even 2-year-olds, pick up the damn phone and call 911. That's all she said about him. Cop says, so then when she called you, then what? Then what happened? She said, come over, check it out. And I was like, okay, I'll be right there. I went over there immediately. I went to the bathroom and we walked over. And I went upstairs because she said Tina and Xander and Ethan were not picking up. And he was up there and he grabbed me and told me that I didn't want to see it. And so I never went in there. And then the police arrived. The cop says, so you were downstairs? She says, I went upstairs. I went upstairs. She went upstairs. I went upstairs. They were all outside. I went upstairs. I was in their room. And he came out and said that he didn't want to see it. So the cop says, did you? So you actually went in? Yes, says Emily. The cop says, did you see anything when you were walking around in there? Did you see anything that would have been out of the ordinary to you? Emily says, well, they didn't do anything last night except for the night before. They threw a big party, so it was like a mess. But it's always a mess when they throw a party. Um, that was on Friday night, says the cop. She says yes, because it was their formals on Friday. But Xana and Mogan and Kaylee, they're not in the sorority. Neither am I. But they hosted it like the pregame before. The cop says, okay, I see. She says, yeah, the only thing was there was a knife on the floor. There was a knife on the floor right immediately when I walked in. There was a knife on the floor. 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 This is the first time we have heard there was a knife on the floor. There was a knife on the floor. Interesting. A knife on the floor. A knife on the floor. Interesting. A knife on the floor. I'm just gonna use my noggin for a split second here. There is a knife on the floor right by the crime scene, and Brian Koberger committed that crime without weapon. Then one would test that weapon and then would seal the deal. You're not gonna use touch DNA, which is like useless, which is why it's not used in most countries, and which is why it's not used in military courts. You would use the DNA on the knife that is on the floor. So what happened to that knife? There was a knife on the floor. Per Emily, she saw a knife on the floor and then a police arrived. And then the police arrived. What happened to that knife? What happened to that knife? Because the only knife that we have heard of was the knife that Hunter grabbed supposedly from the kitchen, and he didn't put it on the floor. Why haven't we heard about this knife? Why hasn't this knife been mentioned in any of the evidence? Hunter grabbed it, then lied and said he got it from the kitchen? Could have. This is the first time I've heard there was a knife on the floor at the top of the fucking stairs. Is that the same knife that Hunter grabbed when he was checking the house? But we didn't see it on the floor, right? We had seen it on the beer pong table in the police body cam. But it's not the same knife, in my opinion. You know why? Because the knife Hunter had was in his possession until the cops arrived. So I'm not sure what Emily's referring to here. Because on the police body cam footage, we can verify that he retained possession of the knife until directed to exit. So, what the fuck? And we have contradicting statements again about Dylan, because she told Emily something else. She told Emily that she had actually heard the door close. And then in another statement, she says she watched him walk out. And then now she's saying she was screaming their names. So what names was Kaylee screaming? And now you saw Kaylee run up the stairs? You saw her with your own two eyeballs? Hunter said they woke up at 12 and he locked the bedroom door and that they went back to sleep in the Prime documentary, right? Now they were up at 1:30 watching TV. That's wild. That's wild. Also, regarding Dylan, if she was drunk, why would she sit there with friends before going to bed watching Vampire Diaries? Okay? This crime screams personal. And the fact that Emily is saying that Dylan heard Kaylee screaming the names. What names was she screaming? Was it the names of the people attacking her? What names were those, Dylan, that you heard her scream? A knife on the floor at the top of the stairs. Bro, really? Now even that doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. And the fact that we have Dylan covered in bruises, I made a footage previously. I shared the images in the thumbnail, and she wasn't questioned at all about the bruising on her arm. It's super sus to me. A knife on the floor. Is it normal to have knives on the floor scattered around the house, Emily? Is that normal? She saw a knife. There's a lot of new little details that make you go, hmm. And then in the documents, it says that Dylan and Bethany were both on the stairs walking up, and then Hunter told them to turn around and leave. So that's another lie. That's another lie. These are the most bizarre, revealing police interviews I have ever seen. Ever. Okay. The question is, are the witnesses helped, or are they being forced to participate in this cover up? We have to ask these questions. Her story does not match the body cam footage from the cops. It doesn't match. It's weird. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know. Try not to vote in the chat. Try to vote in the comment section, because the chat will disappear after we're done here. Please vote in the comment section. The comment section will pop up once the stream here ends. Leave a 1 if you think that it's weird that we have Emily, Hunter's girlfriend, talking about her seeing a knife at the top at stairs on the floor. This can't be the same knife that Hunter had, because he was holding it the entire time, right, from what we can see in the footage. If you think it's weird, if you think this knife, it's weird that it hasn't been booked into evidence because it's not listed in the documents. Why haven't we heard about this knife? Why is Emily the only person that we've heard this knife mention this knife? If you think that this is something that should have been booked into evidence, this is something that is abnormal, it's right there at the top of the floor by the crime scene, a knife. You think it's weird that they didn't book it, they didn't test it? Please leave a 1 if you think this is weird, or looking like a cover up, or looking like something else. Please leave a 1. If you think this is completely normal, leave a 2. Thank you guys for voting. Happy Friday. Thank you guys for joining me in today's lengthy live. I do have to get back to work. I appreciate all the super chats, and I also wanted to give a shout out to, let's see. I won't say your full name. But beautiful Anna sent me $22 for tea or new lipstick through the Cash App. So I really do appreciate those Cash Apps, guys. Thank you so much. It means the world that you guys watch this content and share your perspective with me. So thank you guys for joining me in today's live. Happy Friday. I'm sorry I don't have time to catch up in the chat, but I'll see you guys in the comments. So see you soon. Bye. Have a safe weekend, guys. Stay away from Moscow if you can, okay? Stay safe.